With us tonight we'll have Willie Cleary, who's the Hurling Development Officer with Wexford GAA, and Anthony Masterson, who's the Football Development Officer. Behind the scenes we'll have Derek Hassan, who's our Performance GDA. He'll be looking after the logistics side of things and the computer side of it. And I suppose, the lads put a lot of effort and time into this workshop tonight, and I think everyone will get something from it. So we would encourage you all to take part as well. If you're asked to type something in the text box, just take part. We really welcome that. We welcome the input from everybody. So as much interaction as you can. We'll have a question and answers at the end, where we'll open up the mics. If you want to ask a question, type in your name, or if you want to just type in a question into the box, then we'll happily answer any questions you may have. So again, before we start, I just want to let everyone know we are recording, and we record all the webinars, and they'll be released to everybody who logs into the webinars and to all the clubs as well within time. When they're all finished at the end, we'll be releasing them. And so I'll remind you all again to please turn off all your mics and your cameras. And thank you all again for joining us. And I'm going to hand you over to Willie now, if Willie can take off his microphone. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ray. Good evening, everyone, and you're more than welcome to the Wexford GAA Coaching the Games, the second webinar, as Ray said. So it's coaching children a best practice. I'd love to be out in the pitch tonight, and I know Anthony would too, and we'd love to be doing workshops all over the county. But unfortunately, we've a new era on us, or a new age on us, and we have to make the best of what it is. And this webinar series is actually excellent, and I actually registered myself to loads of GAA ones or different ones around from different sporting backgrounds, and the amount of learning I've done in the last few weeks has been phenomenal in comparison to maybe times that I've been rushing around the place. So we need to use the time wisely to upskill. I suppose I'd start off with the title. It says Coaching Children Best Practice. All we're doing tonight is trying to give everybody, every coach out there, the best possible ways or structures that they can coach the children around the clubs in Wexford. So it's not perfect practice. There is no perfect practice. We will all make mistakes. We will all get things wrong. What we say tonight could be outdated in 5 years' time. But all we have to do is, every child that comes to the pitch, I suppose, and I want to stress this, they only get one opportunity to play GAA. They can't go back and do it again. We can't go back to 5 and 6 year old. Our time is gone. So it's up for us to embed a love and the best ways possible, that when the children come to your clubs, that they have the best possible coaching, best possible feeling to the club, best values that are going on in the club, to make it an holistic approach that they spend their lifetime in the club. However, if we get it wrong, even one incident or one bad year or one bad incident can leave a sour taste in a child, and they might never come back to the club. So look, there's never going to be a perfect practice, but we have to make it as best we can. So I'm going to hand you over to Anthony now, who has a video to kick it off, and he'll be looking forward to your feedback during that video as well.
Thanks, Willie. Yeah, I'm delighted to be here, lads, and delighted to see such a big crowd joining us. See a lot of local and familiar names on in the chat box. So just before we kick off and we listen to the great Timmy Ryan of Glengooley, what we want to do is just to make sure your chat box is open. So anytime we're showing a video or anytime we're speaking, feel free to throw in any bullet points or any notes that you see yourself, or any questions that you might have. If there's any questions, we'll get to them at the very end. But any feedback or information from the videos we ask you to help out on, feel free to put in as much as you can. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off is I want you all to open your chat box. We're going to look at a 2 or 3 minute video from Timmy Ryan, and we want to know what the negatives are and what the positives are from Timmy, the coach himself. Okay, so put on your coaching hat yourselves and listen to Timmy, and type into the chat box as much words as possible, what's negative and what's positive.
Listen, lads, I'm telling you all season, pull half into your man, pull half into him. Pull half into him, right? Hit him half, he's no relation, do you follow me there, right? So don't get in, it'll be blowing me from funeral out there, right? Jesus, you're standing back and you're looking at him, I put a big personal effort in myself this year. I put a big personal effort in myself this year that we were out there in all kinds of conditions. Rain, sleet, snow, the whole thing, and not life, the whole lot. But I tell you something, lads. The standard of name calling in this club is absolutely diabolical. Absolutely diabolical, and we train in our winter. There's no point in running up to a man, sticking your tongue out at him, calling him a sissy and running away. Jesus, that's not name calling. You could have the children, could have the Right? Make sure the reparation see you, but he can't hear you. Right? Then you start next. You insult his mother. Insult his grandmother, his sisters, his family, every one seed breeding generation of them. Insult the shite out of him, annihilate him, lambaste him. Make sure that man hits you. When he hits you, you hit the ground. He gets the line, we get the free. 14 men down to 15 lads. You don't even know how to play the game. Jesus, am I wasting my time? I know the fellas down there, and they're looking up here at me, and I know what they're thinking. I know what they're thinking. I know what they're thinking. What they're saying, what Timmy Ryan? What Timmy Ryan? Timmy Ryan is too hard to us. Well, I tell you something, lads, I'm not. You know all about it next year when you're playing under 14, right? Go out to the day with a bit of fight, a bit of spirit, lads. Go out to the day with a bit of pride of wearing the blue and green and Bengali on your back, lads. Take it that, lads. Go out to the day, lads, and wear off them. Don't be afraid to break homeless. There's plenty on the sideline, right? Let every blow be a funeral. I don't want to see you coming back in here with dirty jerseys. I want to see you coming back in here with blood-stained jerseys, lads. And go out to the day, lads, and enjoy yourselves.
Okay, so some of you might have seen that before, depending on what age you are. But thankfully, he's not a real character. But one message that just came in there from Michael Arthurs is, unfortunately, this character does not just exist on the stage. So yes, there is those coaches that they are out there. Just to run through some of the messages when we came in, and there's loads of them there, so it's brilliant. Thomas Cronin says, old school. Ranting and raving, it's all about Timmy Ryan, so he's self-absorbed. He's very negative in what he says. There's a few positives there. He's passionate. His dedication is good. He's got poor communication skills and a lack of direction. Okay, so we're all hitting exactly what we see. Enjoy yourself was very positive. And come on, Keith. Advocating physical violence. Sorry, Connor. Right, so we shouldn't advocate that at all, obviously, when we're dealing with under 13s, under 15s, or any age group. But he obviously uses bad language and a lot of negative talk. He encourages sledging and foul play. But one of the key things is, and a lot of people have said it, is there's no direction. So he doesn't give the kids any direction apart from self-harming or sledging. And it's a win-at-all-cost attitude. But there is positives to it. So I was actually writing this down during the week, and I actually picked up a lot of positives from it as well, that young lads would really, really like in a coach. The passion, the energy that he brought to it, the enthusiasm. He some young lads might find him funny, so they might remember him. But the energy, enthusiasm he brings to it, and the passion he has for his club are a couple of things that really stand out. So that was just a little icebreaker, just to get your feedback. Not concise enough in the message he wants to get across, too much blurb. Exactly, Orla. So times have changed. Young lads are more clued in nowadays, and they don't want to be shouted and roared at. Basically now what young lads want is direction, and they want to be led, and they want to be challenged. And unfortunately, a lot of this isn't along those lines. So we're going to hand you back to Willie now for the overview of tonight's session. So thanks a million for taking part.
Okay, great icebreaker there. Timmy Ryan, the famous Unbelievables. Thomas Cronin just had a very good point at the end, and it's something that I want to, if everyone can keep in their head throughout it. Are those positives only short term? So they might win the under 12 county title, but if there's 25 on the panel, I wonder how many of them will still be hurling at minor or under 21. So short-term gains sometimes can cost the club long-term. So it's just something to keep in your head as we go through tonight. So if we just look at the overview tonight and the rundown of, we're quickly going to go through Go games. We're going to speak about the core values of a club. We're going to talk about the player pathway. from under 7, under 9, under 11. So tonight we'll only focus on after nursery up till under 11. And then next week, myself and Anthony will be on again, where we look after the teenage years, the youth from under 13 to minor. So keep in your mind tonight, everything we discuss is really focused on under 7 to under 11, but there will be some elements that the club can take through all age groups. What is the role of a coach when coaching children? We will discuss games-based coaching and drills-based coaching, and then we will have some questions and learning outcomes at the end. So we're just going to go to Go Games now to start off. Okay, so first of all, actually, before we go on to Go Games, is the environment that we create. So it's so true that we are all a product of the environments we're surrounded in. So we can all see it. If you're from a different part of the country, you might be into different sports, or if you're in a different, country itself, you might be into completely different ideas. It's where you're brought up and how you're brought up. So you're a product of your environment, and every child is the same. If we can create an environment in clubs of resilience, of character, of determination, of lots of fun, laughter, of hard work and competitiveness, of camaraderie, then the child will become an accumulation of these things in his or her personality, unbeknown to him or her at the time. The child will be learning this when going down to the GAA pitch, but they won't know they're learning it. They will look back when they're an adult and remember that coach was over. Geez, that was brilliant what we did, or we learned that year. And these traits, I suppose, are extremely important. And I just briefly want to touch on, there's so much reading material out there at the minute, and I'm sure you've all heard of Matthew Said, who has written numerous best-selling books, Black Box Thinks and Bounce to name two. Matthew Said was a table tennis player from Reading in England. And on the one street, on the one row of houses where he lived and grew up, there was 12 British champions in table tennis, and a number of them went on to represent Britain in the Olympic Games. So it's not a coincidence, he says, that the 12 players came from the one street to be British champions. They were a product of the local club and the local coach that he still remembers, a guy called Peter Charters. So where we surround our kids and how we surround our kids in the environment, the outcome will come of that. And I think, Anthony, you have a point on that as well.
Yeah, just again, having more time to ourselves, being able to read a lot more. And one of the books that a lot of people will be familiar with will be Legacy, about the All Blacks. And something that they really drive home is that better people make better All Blacks. So it's something that they've focused on, all the underage structures all the way up through that. They pick good people as well as skillful players. So it's something that if we're talking about the environment and the culture of the club, it's something that we really should be focusing on.
Exactly, yeah. So just always think that in your head, the environment that we create in the club. And, there's a few really strong points that we mightn't have thought of. Resilience is probably something that people say is missing in kids nowadays. But it's not missing in kids nowadays. It's just maybe not taught in them nowadays, or it's not something that they're surrounded by. So we'll go on to the next slide now, where we'll briefly touch on Go Games. So as you know, Go Games are the GAA's games from under 7 up to under 11. Changes then when they get to under 13. So I'm just quickly going to run through these. So the main objectives of the GAA's games grassroots to national programme are to maximise participation and optimise playing standards. The big challenge for those in charge of teams is to ensure that games are structured to cater for the needs and abilities of those who participate. GAA Go Games are hurling, camogie and Gaelic football for children up to and including 11 years of age, where every child gets to play in every game for a full game. For too long, the practice in sport has been to identify and cultivate talented players and elite teams at younger and younger ages. There's a tendency to nurture the perceived best and neglect the rest. Can I just ask you quickly in your chat box now, please? Can you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a yes or a no? If when you were under 10, it was under 10 probably when we were playing, did the coach over the team play the best players in the best positions every game, and maybe you or other friends like these probably got very little touches and saw very little of the game, but you were happy because you won, even though one player might have ran the whole show? Can you all just give me a thumbs up if that's something you've seen in the past, or a no if it wasn't, if your coach was different? We've lots of yeses coming in, lots of thumbs up coming in. Everybody is yes. No, Podge, good man. Okay, now, that's great, lads, they're still coming. Brilliant. So we've a few no's. Excellent. Not always. Excellent. And the not always, I suppose, can be hit and miss from the coach you had over you. Some people might have been lucky enough to have a coach who had the whole, the long-term view, and some may be long. But looking at that, there's probably 98% of the people clicking in, 95% of the people are all saying that that's something that we've all experienced, okay? You know, for the child who, you know, the two children that dominate the game, there's another probably 15 to 20 on the panel that probably leave and, you know, they got no interaction. They got very little interaction. So that's something that the Go Games has tried to change, and definitely for the better. So the challenge is to create maximum participation while also developing each child to their potential. And that is a challenge for every coach. How do we get, when we have a child, 20 children in front of us, you know, you might have 3 or 4 lads that are excellent at what they do, just comes naturally to them. Their parents are big into it. You have a lot of lads in the middle that are learning, and you might have some that are quite weak, or, it just, it's a struggle for them, but we want to keep them involved in the club. And the one point I would say, and it comes on to the next one, is retention of players. The under-8 player that you have now in your club, he might not be the best hurler footballer you have, but he could be the best club secretary or the best coaching officer the club has ever had in 20 years' time, if the club can keep them. So this is what Go Games tries to do. We put a strong emphasis of development over winning, and we're challenging players. We want to play them in a variety of positions. And this in Wexford Coaching the Games, we've signs up all over the county. And one of the signs is praise effort, not talent. That we praise the effort they're given, no matter their ability. So the great player who's excellent gets loads of praise, but not because he can do everything and not track back. It's because the effort he puts in. Likewise, if a person who couldn't hit it off their left side and in 3 weeks' time can hit it off the left side, we praise that effort. And that's something that we need to really learn. Praise effort, not talent. We go on, Dara. So here is the famous Dennis Bergkamp. Now, I'm a big Liverpool fan, so I reluctantly put this in as a great Arsenal player. But Dennis Bergkamp is the assistant manager in Ajax, and before he became the assistant manager, he was head of all the youth academy in Ajax there, who the current players, you know, the kind of great team of 2 years ago came through. And he says sometimes in youth development, you put your strongest player on the bench just to let others shine. Or you put a right-footed player who can't do anything with his left foot on the left side and force him to use his left foot. Of course, in that game, you will probably lose because you don't use your strongest players in the strongest position. But in the end, you have a player who used his left foot when he was 12, 13 and 14, and then he can use both feet when he comes into the first team. That's what we have at Ajax, and I really stand behind that. So going back to the point that Anthony read out at the very start, I think it was Michael Arthur's Anthony was the person's name. He said, short-term benefit over long-term. Now, Ajax could go out, I'm sure, at under 12 and beat everybody by playing their best players. But in long-term, are we really doing our players, justice? Are we playing our best player cornerback? Are we playing corner forward? Are we giving them a go? Are we trying players in different positions so they can understand how it works? So instead of being centre back your whole life and giving out to the corner forward for not getting out in front, put him in corner forward, and he might find it harder to get out in front of a cornerback or whatever. So we need to challenge players to really develop them fully in a proper system that you can stand by. All right. So these are the challenges to Go Games, and I suppose we kind of touched on it there when I asked you for your thumbs up. So some coaches might have a win-at-all-cost attitude, so that if they're playing their local parish, or if they're playing a neighbour, or if they're playing any game, they just want to win it. Now, an under-9 that you might have 2 or 3 teams playing, no one will ever ask you, did you win the matches in 3 or 4 years' time? But the first question I suppose we're all asked afterwards, did you win? And that's probably a culture we need to get out of, is that when you rush back to mom, dad or granddad, the first thing he'll ask is, did you win and did you score, generally? So, I suppose that's where it comes into the kids' heads. Best players playing all the time in key positions. I have been at a lot of underage games, and the manager after will say, oh, we give everybody games, we've 20 players, and we bring them all on and everyone gets games. But in reality, the best player stays in the best position, and a sub might come on for a minute at the end of a game and to say he played a game. He didn't play the game. He ran in corner forward, and when he's older, he will understand it. Like, that was the meaning. But at the time, he doesn't understand it. Okay, do coaches pick A and B teams, or do we pick mixed ability teams? So if we've 24 players, are we putting out an A team and hammering one team and then losing maybe the B game, or are we putting players in mixed teams of ability? Are all team talks and preparation geared towards the result, a bit like Timmy in the video, or are we focusing on progression of skills, progression of proper attitude? So if you're working on the jab lift or kicking off your left foot, if the players do it really well in the match, at half time, that should be your first point of call. Geez, lads, last week in training, or for last 2 weeks, we've been working really well on our less dominant foot, and some of you tried it out there and it was brilliant. Okay, so and then I'm going to come on to, just before we go on to the next part, the core values and the player pathway. Could I just ask people in the chat to write down what is a core value? So any word that you think of is a core value. Do you know what I mean? So a club's core value, or a manager's core value, or core value of a team. So we've honesty coming in. Any other ones? Just quickly, just hammered into the chat. Hard work, inclusion, respect, fun, inclusivity, respect, participation, respect, excellent, fairness, brilliant, dignity. Well done, Michael Arthurs, you're on fire tonight. Participation, team, not individual. Dedication, pride, brilliant. Okay, so again, we're getting a lot of the same. Integrity, respect, really, really good. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go on to, I suppose I said that we studied a lot. There was a webinar from Shane Keegan 2 or 3 weeks ago, who was actually excellent, and he's run a series of podcasts now. They're just phenomenally good, by the way. And he studied Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and Stephen Kenny. So he's a soccer coach, and he studied the three of them in depthly. And he said, no matter what sport I was in, and he's a big Leash GAA man as well, and he said, no matter what sport I was in, it all came back. Every manager, so Klopp, Guardiola, Stephen Kenny, or underage, all came back to 4 key ingredients that make any organisation, any team, or any club so strong. And I'm just going to briefly touch on them there now. So the core values of your club. If we created these 4 values alone, so there's just 4 values alone, if we could get them into the club, and every club that abide by them. So 1 would be friendships or togetherness, 2 is psychological safety, 3 is confidence, and 4 is learning environment. So it doesn't matter if you're Davy Fitz, Brian Cody, or Mickey Hart, or you are, over and under 17, that if these 4 core values exist within your team and within your club, you'll be a long way to having a successful organisation. So if we look at friendships and togetherness, so to make and nurture friendships, these can last a lifetime. I would hazard a guess that an awful lot of us, some of our best friends in life, came from the GAA pitch. I would be confident in saying that. I would say that the children love to feel part of something. They want a club, they want the colours, they want a crest. So if you're over Ferns, red and white is their colours, the Ferns crest with the castle is their crest, and a sense of belonging and pride to be part of a place. And ultimately, I suppose, and sometimes it's a bit cheesy, but it's so true to all of us, and we're kind of noticing it now when we don't have it, is a second family. The second core value that I would really strongly is psychological safety. So it sounds a bit fancier than it actually is. So do we create a safe environment for the child? Are we allowing our children to make mistakes and try things without any fear? So become better decision makers themselves. So, or are we standing on the line roaring at them? So if they're coming in off the right wing and they're after dummy soloing a lad and they're true on goal, and it's the right thing is to kick it with their left foot, but they're right-footed, and they try it with their weaker foot and it skews off wide, and do you give out to them? Why didn't you take that on? Why didn't you cut back onto your strong foot? Or are we trusting them to become better players and make mistakes? And that's where the trust between players and coaches, even at a young age, as long as you're praising their effort and as long as they're giving you effort. The third core value would be confidence. Do we fill our children in our clubs and in our counties with confidence? Do we create an atmosphere of warmth? And we have this great quote here: behind every young child who believes in himself is a parent coach who believes in them first. And that's a fantastic quote. Okay. We probably all remember one teacher or one coach. Actually, I'll ask you to do that. Thumbs up again or a yes. Do you remember one coach or one parent who had a strong influence on you? And does that person still stick in your head to today? Yes is coming in. Thumbs up. That's great to see. Brilliant. Flying in. So we all remember that one person that instilled the confidence in us. But imagine we had a club that all coaches did it. Okay? And the last core value that we'd love to instill is a learning environment, of course. That when they come, the senior team is not going to be doing the same as the nursery. Or the under-13 team isn't going to be doing the same as the under-7s. So we have to get better as we go along, and there has to be improvement, and we have to be learning. So players and coaches are expected to continually develop and improve at their own pace. And the one thing I would touch on there is often we focus only on the players continually developing, and sometimes we don't develop on the coach. Now, I'm sure everyone on this webinar, you're after giving the effort to come onto the webinar that you're on a different spectrum, but we all see the coaches who just don't listen. They remember what they did in the 80s or the 70s or 90s, and that's good enough for them even now. We must create a demanding but fun environment, and we must follow a player pathway. So I don't know if your club has core values instilled in them from the coaching officer, from the chairman, from the secretary down, but it's something I highly recommend, that even if we got those 4 values into any organisation, we would be in a fantastic place to develop children. So I'm going to hand you over to Anthony now, who will lead the player pathway section of the webinar.
Yeah, just keep on there.
Sorry.
Tortoise.
Sorry, my fault. Yeah, you can skip that there, thanks.
Yeah. So this is something that we, working for Leinster GAA, have been running out into clubs for the last 2 years. So basically, it's a tourist player pathway. So what it is basically, it's a resource for coaches. Because I remember when I was, just to go back, and when you're coaching children, you always wonder, should I be doing this with these kids, or should they be at a level above this, or are we actually coaching these? Are these skills too difficult for this age group to be working on? So what this resource does, it actually gives you cards to say, at under 9, they should be able to jab lift or roll lift, or they should be able to do the near hand tackle. They should start kicking with their left and right and striking with their left and right. So these are just resources that we're running to the clubs and visiting clubs to give, to try and help coaches improve and upskill. So tourist basically is the Irish word for journey. What the tourist means for is there's five key principles. T means testing and challenging. So our sessions and our trainings should be testing and challenging. The U is understand that the player is at the center of the game. So it's a player-centered approach. R means resembles the game. So it's games-based. A is all players involved, a lot of touches and a lot of decisions for the players. So that will come with your games-based approach. And S means it should be fun and enjoyable. So if we can take, along with what Willie's saying about the core values of the club, if we can take those 5 principles into our sessions, well, it'll make us better as coaches, and it'll make us better players as well. So just keep on to the 5 stages, Dara. So just to run through these quickly, what we're working on tonight is the first 3. So at age 4 to 6, we're looking to learn to master the ball. That's what the kids are looking to do. The emphasis should be about fun and participation, with key emphasis on physical literacy and fundamental movement skills with the ball. Okay, so very basic. Second stage will be learn to use the ball well. So we're getting more comfortable with the ball. Age 7 to 9, major skills learning phase, where all basic skills in football and hurling are learned, and the emphasis on fundamental movements is still there, right? And it always should be. Stage 3, we learn to play together. Emphasis on understanding how to play and work together as a team, and that's up to into our early teens. And then what we'll be working on next week, learning about positions and learning to perform. So the principles of play and applying good game sense increase as we get older, and we combine all aspects of performance, including decision making, higher physical demands of the game, and coping with competition. Okay, so all these resources are available online and on the Leinster GAA website. So just move on, Dara. So we won't go through everything on these. As I said, they're available, and they'll be available to see afterwards. Ray is recording this, and he'll be sending this to everybody. So this is something similar to what the tourist player pathway gives us. If you're over an under 9 team or an under 7 team, or you're working with nursery, again, what should they really be focusing on? So these are just simple cards that allow you to work on the things that you should be, that you're not progressing the kids along a line. So basically, some people might focus on getting the hurling the helmet into the kids, putting gum shields into their mouth, putting the ball in their hands before they can actually have their ABCs learned, or they're able to run, jump and throw. Okay, so at player pathway 4 to 6, we're looking at basic handling, getting to learn how to use the ball, and then all ABCs and RJTs, and little fun court games or part invasion games, what we should be working on. Moving on. 7 to 9, again, just getting more familiar with the ball, starting to use left and right more, and again, the fundamental movements, ABCs, all the agility, balance, coordination, starting to focus more on the jumping, throwing, catching, all those movements. And then we're targeting games again, court games, field games, and then more part invasion games again. Into the next one, Dara. So this is where we start to go after some of the more complex skills. Okay, so we'll be doing a lot of evasion work here. We'll be looking at all the different types of tackling, all the different types of hooking and blocking and hurling, all the different types of striking and kicking and catching. So we need to really go after them all there. Looking at speed and strength and endurance and stamina, as well as our flexibility and coordination. And that's at 10 to 12 years of age. Okay, right there. So moving on to the next part, the role of the coach. So just for another 60 seconds, same as what Willie's been doing, what do you think the role of the coach is? Okay, so I want you to throw in 1 or 2 words into the chat box for the next 60 seconds. What do you think the role of a coach is? All right. Okay, galvanize the team, along order, motivate, create a fun and safe environment, encourage, mentor, role model for the kids, develop the players, all right, all flying in, structure training, fun bus, very good, Thomas. Provide a safe and fun place, yeah, communicate, Pat, well done. Develop skills, ensure it's fun, exactly, Simon. Guidance, Martin, to be a facilitator, very good. Facilitate, listen, help players be the best they can be. Michael Arthur says all the big words. Well done, Michael. Fair and honest. Facilitate, adjudicate, inspire. Brilliant. Educate, adjudicate. You could have to adjudicate as well. Guide. Well done. Okay, guys. So just keep popping them in as you're going along. So a lot of experience here, obviously, and we know what to do. But a lot of times, we know it's easy to put all these things down on paper, and then sometimes we go to the pitch and something annoys us, or we get frustrated at something, or we bring our troubles at home to the GA pitch and we end up taking it out on the kids. And hand on heart, we've all been there. I've been there myself. I've had a bad day or something's gone wrong and we end up getting frustrated and we take it out on the kids, or we don't have as good a session as we plan to be, and we ignore what exactly the core values of our training is. So it's just something to really remind us and to think about. So create an enjoyable atmosphere to learn is a brilliant way of summing it all up. So the role of the coach. So I don't know if anybody had listened to Keith Ricken recently. It was one of the more interesting clips that I've viewed over the last few months. And one of the things he said, if you can remember, if any of you looked at it, he didn't do a PowerPoint presentation. He read out a little book that he'd been writing into for his last 30 or 40 years coaching. And he led Cork to the under-20 All-Ireland last year in the football. And one of the things, and I've since written this down into my little book, is when you're coaching, you own their sorrow and you own their joy. And I think if you take that and you bring that to every single session you go to, and you think about that when you're talking to kids and when you're giving them feedback, I think that's something that can really, really work for us all. So you set the mood. You set how much energy is going to be at training. You set the enthusiasm and the feeling that's at training. So if you obviously rock up and you jump out of the van or the car at 7:29 and coaching and training's at 7:30, straight away the parents and the kids know there's something wrong and they'll feed off that and they'll lose enthusiasm, they'll lose energy, and then you will actually lose energy as well. How do you make the kids feel every night? All right. So I always say, as a parent, how would you like your own kids to feel coming home?
Anthony's froze. He's back there now.
Yeah.
You're back, Anthony.
Technology at its best. Okay,
Yeah.
So a growth mindset. So a coach must be willing to constantly upskill. So at the moment, everybody here tonight is here to upskill, here to learn something. In the last couple of weeks, I've done more reading and learning, and I know Willie and the lads have as well, because we have more time to do it. Foundation, level 1, level 2, tourist workshops, online learning, podcasts, books, webinars. Get out there, look at as much as you can, because there's always little tips to be learned off everything. And development. Follow the club player pathway for the age group, what we've just led through, the tourist player pathway. Age appropriate training and a yearly outline of training. So designating periods of the year to work on certain skills. So what we're just saying there is, do you get together with your coaches at the start of the year and say, okay, we're going to block this year off and we're going to work on tackling in the first 6 weeks, all right? And we're going to have a real focus on tackling. then we're going to work on striking, then we're going to work on picking up, then we're going to work on evasion. And can you, at the end of the year, tick off all the age-appropriate training that's advised to you on the tourist player pathway? Okay, I say a lot of us at the moment, and before we've learned more, wouldn't be able to do that because we're probably just winging it as we go along. Some of the little tips that the lads put together, James Flynn and some of the GPOs put together, done really good work. So we have purple for Wexford. So P is plan, U is upskill, R is read, P is practice different things, L is listen, different podcasts, and E is evaluate yourself and evaluate what you've been doing and how you can get better going forward. Okay, Dara? So again, some of the things that the people sent into the chat box, everything was covered. Organisation, all right? Booking pitches. How many times have any of us rocked up to a pitch and there's a match going on and now you have to do the warm-up behind the goal, or you have to set up and the kids are getting distracted by looking at the match? Just all you need to do is make a phone call and see, maybe you could have started training 20 minutes later. Planning your training sessions in advance. Right? Kids will feed off if they know that you haven't planned your training session. They'll feed off it. But if you have a training session that's going from one step to another, that's when intensity increases, and that's when they'll really, really enjoy it. Timekeeping. So arrive 20, 30 minutes for training. Have a voice, use good language. So command the stage or command the kids. Have a good tone, and does what you say make sense to the child? So again, put yourself in the child's shoes. Right? If you're using big terminology, some of the kids could be looking at you going, what is this lad saying? We don't understand it. Okay. Appearance. Can you get home from working in an office or being on the farm? Can you get home, or even in the back of the van, throw on a club tracksuit or a club jumper onto you 5 minutes before you go out to set up for training? Self-evaluate is one of the things that's very, very important, and a lot of us would have only started using in the last couple of years. Was that a good session? Right? Did I achieve my aims of my session? What went well for me? What could be done better? Can I ask anyone for advice or help? So can I stick my neck out and say, God, I know this fella now, and he's over a big team in Wexford, he's over a big team in Wicklow or Cork or Kerry. Can I go and approach him? And you'll actually find a lot of top level coaches have been in the exact same position yourself, so they'll be really eager and mad to help you out. And am I bringing quality or just a lot of quantity? Is it fun? And the main thing is, are the players enjoying it? Okay, thanks, Dara. So really, if we go into the next stage with games-based coaching.
Yeah, just quick before, if you had 24 players for under 9 training, how many balls should you have? How many slitters should you have, or football should you have? 24 players, how many slitters do you think you should have? Type it into the box. Or footballs. Good answers. Yeah, so I'm guessing we're all thinking along the same lines. We all wrote the lowest number we've got is 24. Some people have wrote 30 and so on. Reason being is, at that age, a ball each. They need a ball each for warm up, for everything that, you know, we can't have. I've turned up to clubs to do training sessions and we could have 25 kids there, and they would say to you, is 9 slitters enough for you? Okay, so Claire summed it up there, 1 per player. Just something to keep an eye on when you're a coach. So games-based coaching and drills-based coaching, I suppose the biggest thing I'll set out is it's not a versus. They're not enemies. Okay, there's a big theory out there now, or a big push on games-based coaching, which, look, I'm an advocate of. I do it myself in the majority of my sessions. Okay, they're all games-based. But drills-based is not dead, or it's not finished, or it's not bad. Okay, it's just how we marry the two of them together, and how we get the balance right between both. So what is a games-based approach to training? A games-based approach coaching ensures the players develop techniques and skills in an appropriate environment. While traditional drills, linear, provide an organised structure for gradual development technique, fun games and modified game, provide an opportunity to practice skills of the games in an open environment where decisions such as where to move, whether to take possession, which skill to perform are forced upon players. I think that last sentence is the key. Okay, so if we're doing a drill and we've all been part of this and we have 30 players, a lot of coaches will go 5 groups of 6. So 6 behind that cone, 6 behind that cone, 6 behind that cone. I want you to run out. I want you to pick up the ball with your right foot and then pick up the ball with your left foot and then high-five your man. So then the 5 are back in the line, messing, waiting around, bored, cold, and they're not really learning it in the game. If we can bring that into a game-based situation where, as it says there, an open environment where decisions are put on the players. Where do I move to pick up the ball? What am I meant to take possession here, or are you just telling me to run out 5 yards and take it? And is this a roll lift, or is this a jab lift? Should I be running and stopping, or should I be running through it? Should I be pulling on it or picking it up? Okay, and the players will learn them in games. Okay, instead of you like robots telling them what to do each time. Just move it on there. Thanks. So again, and I'm really focusing on the and here. Both games and drills-based coaching have a role in all our coaching. They can work together and they're not enemies. If you have an under 7 and you're teaching them how to jab lift, you will need to do some form of drill-based coaching, okay? Or you're going around cones sometimes. There will have to be some sort of drills in it. However, with games, we have more touches, similar movements and context to matches, and it's more fun. The children will do it without knowing to themselves, okay? Challenge the young players to become their own decision makers while focusing on the skills of the game. So your game will have a target, or will have an aim or an objective, okay, that you know of, that they don't know of, and in that they will be learning the skill of the game. So if you're teaching them how to hook or to block, okay, first of all you'll teach them the technique. Then after a while they'll get good at it. Put them into a games-based coaching where now you're focusing on that, but they might know they're focusing on it, and it's getting them to decisions. Do I block here, or do I go behind and hook? What do I do? And award points then because of that. Drills can often be linear. Example, 4 players getting limited touches. Can be boring, but they do still have a place with younger players at times. Please, if you're up at coaching and you're training them for 1 hour, if you've 60 minutes, do not do drills for 50 minutes and then put them into a match. Okay? You will lose the interest of them. So you need to learn the balance between drills, games-based, and actually matches itself. Okay? Thanks, Dara. So station coaching. This was something that I would strongly, and I'm sure Anthony would too, would strongly advocate for especially kids up to under 11. So you have 24 children arriving up at you, looking at you, for example. Straight away you need to think of 4 stations of 6, or 3 stations of 8, or 2 stations of 12, depending on how many coaches we have. All it takes then is one coach, just 3 or 4 of you over the team, take each station. Do the warm-up together, make sure it's fun. Make sure you're doing loads of fundamental movements. Make sure they all have a ball each, which we said. And then you can let each coach take a station, and they can focus. One station could be a technical skill. So you might be learning how to hop the ball, solo the ball, and kick it over the bar in the one movement without stopping. The other one could be ABCs, fundamental movements. So they could be hopping over ladders, over hurdles, underneath poles, and then getting up to do a little pick-up or something. And then the other one could be a little 4-on-4 match. But if you have all 24 of them together, straight away you're like, how am I going to control these? Then you go back to what we were taught when we were kids, which is drills, and they don't get enough touches or contact or match situations. By having one coach with each station designated around, the session will go fast. And literally all it takes then is maybe one coach to lead it, and every 10 to 15 minutes move them on. And then the hour will fly by and they'll have covered everything. And it also allows a coach to work with a group in a close proximity. So if you're working with 6 players, it's easy to spot and fix, as we use in coaching. Instead of if you're working with 24 players, it's harder to stop training to spot and fix. So I'd really, really stress station coaching.
Just on that, Willie, can I come in there?
Yeah, of course.
Just a question that's always put to us about how, if you're over an under 11 team, you might have 5 or 6 really, really strong players who actually be good enough to play with your under 13 team. And when they're at under 11 training, they're a step above everybody else. So this is a way, obviously, of keeping the testing and challenging for them, and then obviously keeping the testing and challenging for the next level of kids down. So you can put the 6 of them into a group, and they're all doing the exact same training as everybody else, but they're working at their pace, and then the next level are working at their pace, and maybe then the 9-year-olds who have just come up, they're working at their pace as well. And then you can progress. If someone is doing really well, let's say in the B group, as a coach, you know who's in the different categories, you can progress them up into it. So it's just a way of splitting up the kids without actually splitting them up, if you know what I mean. So it's definitely a good way of doing that as well.
Yeah, and just to touch on what Anthony said, if you look at the All Blacks don't do the 8th grade coaches underage anymore. It's all done by weight and size. So if you're 12 stone and you're 6 foot at 12, they don't put them with the 5 stone, 5 foot or 12-year-old, because it just doesn't make any sense. So here's a way to group them by size, by age. So if we're over an under 9 team, one person could be born in January and be 9, and then you could have another child who's 7 and is not 8 till December. So there's effectively 23 months between them, and yet they're in the same age group. But just on the questions, Thomas has come in there. He said, does a coach stay with the station, or the group stays with the station, Thomas? So you will look after that sort of game or that drill for the night, and the players will move to you. That's what I'd recommend. And how do you keep all children trained and involved in a games-based approach? Again, Paul, going back to our station coaching, if we have 3 groups of 8, everything's done. 8 of them are all doing ABCs. Fundamentally, you might have 3 different kind of obstacle courses set up with funds in it. They all have a ball each, maybe doing shooting down at the other end, and then they're in a match 4v4. And after 50 minutes, they move on. So that's how you keep them all interacted. So Dara, we'll go on to the next one, block training versus random practice. So I'm going to credit Damien Quigley from Rathnure with this. Damien is a fantastic coach. He's a Leinster tutor, and we're lucky to have him in Wexford. Well, Damien did a presentation for Leinster 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and it kind of really opened all our eyes. And I think he only learned it the last year or two himself. He works with the under 7s in the club, and he came up with a term, block training versus random practice. So he says, in block training, we're focusing on one specific aim consistently. So I've done the example there of a jab lift. So sometimes we give them a ball each, and we're going to put them down the spot. How many jab lifts can you get in 60 seconds? Okay? So they'll stand on the same spot. So they'll pick it, drop it, pick it, drop it. In a match, this never happens. So when they pick it, they drop it. They won't do that in a match. So they first of all need to encourage to take their 4 steps. And generally, they need to be moving on to it. So he was doing this with the club, and they all had the technical skill perfect. But when it came to a match, he was looking at them and he said, they're not getting it. Like, you know, they're getting what's happening. So he realized they're being pushed off it. They're after being asked to do it at different speeds, that there's hurls coming in underneath the jab lift. So how do we do it? So he said, okay, so we changed it up. So we teach them the technical skill. We practice that for a while through block training, but then we move them on to what he called as random practice. So he said you mix them all up together. So you ask a child to do a jab lift, then do a roll lift, then maybe strike all into one game or exercise, so that they have to make the decision, is it time to jab lift now? So if you're running and you're running through it, it's a jab lift. If you have to run up to it, stop and turn, it's a roll lift. And then when do you strike? And by asking to do that, he found it was more game-like, and it allowed the child to decide, should I jab lift here or roll lift? Then when I get the child to take their steps automatically without you having to tell them, and then there has to be an outcome, which is the score. So if you just set up a simple drill like that, after they have the technical skills, it transfers way better to when they're actually playing matches. So we'll just move it on. And we just have a small clip here of games-based coaching in hurling. Just can you write down even on a journal in front of you, or you know, even into the chat box when you're looking through this or when you're watching this, is have a look at it, and then maybe think for 30 to 60 seconds after, how could I progress that further again in a few weeks' time? So again, this would be one station in your coaching. There's 8 players involved. You're using a square in the pitch, and the aim of it will be explained through the video. So thanks, Dara.
This is a fun game to practice striking from the hand. Mark out a grid approximately 40 meters by 20 meters using cones. Divide the grid into 4 sections. Divide the players into pairs, 1 pair per section. One of each pair is a member of the same team. The team with the ball attempts to retain possession by striking the ball from section to section. The opposing team attempts to block their opponents as they strike the ball. If the strike is blocked, that team gains possession. If the strike is successful, that team must be allowed to retain possession. Continue the drill for a set period of time. The team that retains the ball for the greatest number of passes in sequence is the winner.
Okay, so if we just quickly look at that video, that's 10-year-old under 11 team doing that, 8 players doing it. So if you look at their footwork, okay, if you look at their movement and their decision making, it's all on the player. No coach can instruct us. If they win it and there's somebody on them, they need, do I go left, do I go right? Often when we're teaching striking, we would have put them into drills. So 1v1, 30 yards apart, hit it right, hit it left. We'll do that for 10 minutes and they get bored. Here's a game that we can do that coaches striking, first touch, tackling, and blocking, if you notice, was rewarded. When they got a block in and they blocked the ball down, the team automatically had to give him possession back. Hooking, team play, looking up, finding my man. Dara, can you just quickly play a few seconds of that again? Because if you just forget about the hurling side of it now, just look at their footwork and decision making.
Fun game to practice striking from the hand.
Just look at their feet and their decision making.
Approximately 40 metres by 20 metres using cones. Divide the grid into 4 sections. Divide the players into pairs, 1 pair per section. One of each pair is a member of the same team. The team with the ball attempts to retain possession by striking the ball from section to section. The opposing team attempts to block their opponents as they strike the ball. If the strike is blocked, that team gains possession. If the strike is successful, that team must be allowed to retain possession.
Now, if you look at here, look at the footwork, decision making.
The team that retains the ball
So
for the
spinning, going onto his left,
is the winner.
Okay, so it's all in that, all in the game. And if you do a drill, none of that comes into it. Okay, so if I could just ask you quickly before I hand you back to Anthony, is how could you progress that further and make that even a little bit more harder for them, more difficult for them? If you just write quickly in there, 60 seconds, and we'll hand you on to Anthony then. How could you make that a little bit more difficult or challenging? Smaller squares, yeah. So the size, thinking straight away, you're thinking of size, bigger, smaller squares. 2-on-1, exactly. Okay, maybe you're only allowed to hit off your less dominant side. Time each team. Very good. How many? Very good, Avril. 2 slitters going. Loads of touches, loads of students flying all around. Excellent, Michael. Put in more balls. 2 balls. Excellent. You're all thinking along the same way. Introduce a player call for a pass. Really good call. Okay. You could put in a goal at the end. So, you know, if when every player's got 1 touch, now they can shoot. You can put a pole down or up 2 poles down, shoot over the bar, so you have an outcome of a score. Include an extra player, maybe a joker player. Tackle on receiving the pass. Must strike left. Next one right. Very good. Freeze the play. Exactly. Freeze time and discuss what they're doing. And make sure, just really, really important one that we would have learned a few years ago up with Ger O'Connor, both myself and Anthony, is when you freeze the play, don't tell them the answer. Get them to tell you the answer. Okay, how could we make this better? What could you have done there? And straight away they'll know, I shouldn't have gone on to my stronger side there. It was easier on that side, but I just need to get better at it. Yeah, but if you get better, that'll become easier, and straight away they're improving from it. That's excellent. Thanks very much. I'm going to pass you to Anthony now for the football games based.
Yeah, so first thing we're going to look at here, again, in the chat box, we're going to look at very, very simple 80 or 90 seconds. This is just a coach down in Limerick. And I'm going to look at 90-second warm-up here, just a simple warm-up idea for under 10s, under 9s. Okay, there. In the chat box, put in what they're working on in this warm-up.
Take off the bit there, lads. Take off, yeah. Go, take it off. Okay, you're great. It's called change now, lads. So now, you're going to watch what's happening behind you and what's around you. There's watches or something, and I can take it off as well. I can go down and take it off. That's right, Darren. No way, Darren, I have my eye on you. Okay, get your hand. You ready? Read the square. Everybody's on. Last person that wins. Just head over there to your coach. Or we might just sign this there. Go to your coach there. So, are you ready? Set. Go! Let's go! Go! Okay, you pick your new invite. Let's go. Around. On your left. On your left. Aha, gotcha. Aha, gotcha. On your left. On your left. 1, 4, 3, 2. Hey, come in. Let's go. Jog in. Jog in. Jog in. Well done, lads. Jesus, how many of you got passed straight away? Huh? Should I be aware what's happening around? Let's take her on.
Thanks, Darren. Just so before we move on to the next stage, so yeah, exactly. Everyone's after writing a coach down to their level. Agility, speed, awareness, fun. Yeah, you could hear the kids laughing. You could hear them, and so straight away, instead of running them out to online and jumping and throwing side to side, I suppose straight away there, the heart rate is up and they're ready for training now. You have their attention. Okay, so what we're going to look at now is what would we want to see ourselves as a coach, right? So we were trawling trawling different things and seeing what different coaches could be get out there and what videos. There's actually very little videos online of coaches with underage, but this was what we felt was exceptional coaching, how we spoke to the kids and how we laid out the session. So the first clip is a couple of minutes long. So again, what do you think is happening and what do you think as a coach he's doing with the kids? All right, let's go there. Just throw it into the box, chat box.
How many can you possess? You're trying to get the balls up, just knock them away as you can. The last group knocked them all away, so we have to try and get well each one or two if we can. All right? You ready? Are we steady? Go! Let's go! Well done. Go for it. Well done. Well done. Let's go. You're done, John. You're done. You're done. Well done. Excellent. Go for it. Well done. Stop. Okay. What I'm doing here, I'm just leaving the game roll. So you see what I'm doing. Okay, well done. Let's go. You want the ball? You move away. Well done. Listen, you're done. You're done. You're done. You're done. You're all right, don't worry about it. You get a chance to move. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, so Dave, come up, Gareth, come up here. Gareth, come up here. Gareth's the ball, yeah? Gareth's the ball, so you want to knock the ball in the hand. Okay, fair enough. What hand do I knock the ball over it? Oh. Okay. This one. This one. Okay, so very good. You're telling me when you're like, excellent, very good. So what do I need to do now? Do I want to get the ball? I do. Yeah. So what do I need to do? Tap it. Yeah, tap it. Tap it away, look. Tap it away. Tap the ball. Go. Got 10 going. Well done. Dara. Today we're going to practice the near hand tap. I saw a lot of lads over there, you're tackling like this. You're tackling like this. And what could happen when you're tackling like this? What's going to happen? You could fall. Yeah, exactly. You mightn't get there in time, so you're going to grab the jersey, which a lot of you were doing. You were grabbing jerseys because you couldn't get there in time. Okay? Then a lot of guys, okay, you're coming in and you could fall over just because you can't get the ball because you could be cute and have the ball over here. I'm going to get the ball in. So excellent. You said yourselves, near hand. So if I'm right beside Dara, I'm going to use my near hand to tap the ball. Well, don't worry, Dara, I get it, all right, don't worry. Okay, so I'm going to bring my leg up beside Dara. So when Dara's running, okay, so Dara just run across. Okay, I can come over here. Okay, so I'm going to come around, I'm going to try and tap Dara for stuff. So Dara, I'm going to try and get the ball at Dara. It's fighting part, so I keep my eyes on the ball. I use my arm. Now I'm going to wait. Can I tap Dara when the ball isn't here? When can I tap Dara? All I want you to do here is.
Okay, Dara.
So Dara, you're going to.
Yeah, so what we've seen there basically is, and everyone's after highlighting it, okay? So the first thing he did was he went straight into a game. So it's fairly clear, obviously, from that, his focus of tonight's training is the near hand tackle. So before he goes to training, he plans out his session, and the key focus of tonight's training is going to be the near hand tackle. Yes, we're going to play games. Yes, we're going to have fun, but his object is to try and get the players to remember the near hand tackle and to try and teach the key teaching points in near hand tackle. So he let them into a game for a couple of minutes first. So what he done was he just let them play. And he probably didn't hear it in that clip. He said to the coaches, just leave them at it. So all he's doing is letting the players make mistakes, seeing what their technique is like as a near hand tackle. Then he brings them all back down, like everybody said. He's engaging the kids. So he's empowering 9-year-olds. These are, I think, these might be under 10, under 9. He's empowering 9-year-olds. So they now feel that they're telling him the answers. So now they're giving him the idea of how to do the near hand tackle. So he's doing the introduction, the demonstration, he's doing all the key teaching points, the head, hands and feet. So he is breaking it down as a skill and teaching them how to do it. So what he's going to do now, obviously, then is he is going to just click it on for another few seconds, Dara. And show him. Okay, so we talk about drills, and Willie talks about drills and how important they are. And here's the key point. This is when a drill is important. When you're trying to enforce the key learning points, when you're trying to demonstrate. And this can be used from underage all the way up to adults. So again, there's only 4 behind the cone. They're working in pairs, so they're going every second time.
Keep riding the ball, tap the ball down. That's all. I don't care if you win it. Right? Tap the ball down. They should pick it up again and go again. Are you ready? Are you steady? Off we go. Well done. Give it back to me. That's it. Well done. Don't stop. Don't stop, Tom. Well done.
Okay, Dara, you can skip on to the next one, Dara, and just pause it for a second.
Make sure you wait.
Yeah. On to the next clip. Okay, so before we start this, so what the coach has done, just to re-emphasize, he's went into a game after his fun warm-up. He's went into a game. He has seen that there's interventions to be had, so he's fixing the skill. Okay, so he's bringing the kids in, he's introducing it, he's demonstrating it, and then he's executing and attending. So he's letting the kids practice it. And now what he's going to do is he's going to check for learning. So he's going to stick it back into a game. Okay, so this is only 90 seconds long. This is the last clip before we ask for any questions. Again, the feedback has been brilliant. Just Mick has put in he's using the TGFU method, teaching games for understanding. Okay, what is his terminology and how he spoke to the kids and how he engaged the kids, got that understanding. So again, the last 90 seconds, put in what you see here in the next 90 seconds. Okay, thanks, Dara.
Hands, wait till you hit the ball out bouncing your shoulder, tap the ball and hit your back. That's what you're focusing. Okay? Are you ready? Ready, go! Let's rock and roll! Let's go! I can't move right! Use your hand, Jack. You get it, Jack. That's better, that's better. Right? You push you out. Use your near hand, use your near hand. Let's go. Other hand out. Other hand, go near hand. You gotta go to your hand. Use your near hand, lads. Let's go. That's better. Here we go. Yeah, let's go. Here we go. One in, no ball. Let's go. This ball. Support. Hand of aid. Near hand tackle. Remember that. Let's go. That's good. One on. No big ball. Let's go. Oh, looky, Mike. Watch the team. Near hand. Good stop. Near hand. Here we go. Well done. Watch near hand tackle. Support. Let's go. That's it. Well done. You get it. Well done. That's good space. Hit it in. Good ball. Well done. That's it. Well done. Excellent. Well done. That's it. Pick it up. Near hand tackle. Near hand. Excellent. Good stop. Well done. Near hand tackle. That's a great ball. I know. Okay. Let's rock and roll.
Okay, Dara. Okay, so some of the things that come in, everyone involved, yeah, repeating the skill to be learned, enthusiasm and clear direction. So in comparison to Timmy Ryan from Glengooley, who didn't give any real clear direction, Barry just wrote in decision making, spatial awareness, ABCs, emphasis on the near hand tackle. So if he asked himself, if all those kids got into the car, right, when they jumped in and their parents picked them up and said to him, what did you work on tonight? I can guarantee you every single one of them would say, we learned the near hand tackle and we worked on the near hand tackle. Even though he progressed it, what we were looking for there in the last clips was he progressed the near hand tackle into 3 different games. Okay, there were similar games, but he progressed it to including goals, as Willie said in the last clip with the hurling. He changed the game around, he just included goals, but always the emphasis was on the near hand tackle. So how would we make that competitive? Give them a score for the near hand tackle. All right, give them a score. Yes, they're soloing the ball, they're kicking, they're catching, their evasion is all there, their passing, their teamwork, but their near hand tackle is there. So when he comes to the match on Saturday and he's able to say to the boys, lads, what do we work on during the week and what do we want to practice in the match today? They should all be able to say to him, the near hand tackle. So if the referee gives a free, he'll be able to say to the young lad at half time, what did you do wrong to give away the free? And the young lad will say, I went with the wrong hand, I pushed him in the back. What will you do the next time? I'll try go with the near hand. Okay, and that's what we all see as really, really good positive coaching, and that's a learning environment.
Anthony, can I just jump in there for 10 seconds?
Yeah.
Just to go back on, remember the slide we had from Damien Quigley where it was block training versus random practice. So the block training is the near hand tackle, okay? So the two of them going out and the other person slapping in with the near hand, that's block training. So we're teaching the technical skill. But to come on until the random practice. So when he brought it in, we could now see that the near hand tackle was being used when we were tackling, but there was also soloing, taking your 4 steps, hopping, hand passing, foot passing. Okay, so and they only had to use the near hand tackle when it was available in a match, the same as they will do when they go out and play a match at the weekend. Okay, and there was one instance, there was a boy in a blue t-shirt, and he was swinging at him, and he kind of swung at him with his far hand, his strong hand, his dominant hand, his right hand, which a lot of them will do, and straight away that's when block training changes to random practice, because if they were doing block training, he would do the near hand the whole time. But when it became into a match and random practice, it changed, and he had to decide what to do, and he went back to old habits, the same as a lot of us do. Okay, so that's the ideal example of how we transfer block practice into random practice. That's it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so that sums it up there. So I'll move on to the last one, Dara, will you?
Yeah, we just have a summary. So first of all, we'd like to thank you from myself and Anthony's point of view. It's kind of a new way of coaching for all of us, and we see over 100 people logged on a Wednesday night. It's fantastic. So the summary was, and we hope you got out of it, is go games. There's going to be a little test here at the end, by the way, so be ready. What are the core values of your club? Okay. Does your club have core values? I'd be surprised. It'd be interesting to hear if you did have core values. Player pathway. Do you know your club's player pathway? Has it been given to you? Is there a presentation start of the year from the coaching officer or the chairman showing you what the player pathway is and what we want you to achieve? Do you understand the difference between games-based coaching and drills-based coaching and how to set up a session? Now, question time. If you get this, Anthony's going to give you all a brand new O'Neill's football from his locker. Okay? What was Keith Rickens' phrase? Who can type into the box first? Keith Rickens' phase, and you can't go back through the slides if you took photos of them. Stop looking at your phone. Anyone remember Keith Rickens' phrase?
Who's the first one going to be in?
The first one in.
Karina.
Oh, Karina. That Karina Shield from Rosslare.
Yeah.
James Shield must have told you that or text you that.
Wesley's in. Michael Arthurs is in.
Yeah. And I just wanted to test you on that because it's so important that remember when they face you that their night and their next hour and their next few days depends on your mood. And if you come bouncing like that football coach was, you will own their joy. But if you come dour, not planned, kind of in a bad mood or anything, you will own their sorrow. So make sure when you go down there, before you start every session, will I own their sorrow or will I own their joy? Look, good for me, myself and Anthony, thanks very much. I'll let Anthony, if you want to say a few things, and we'll take questions then in the end. But really, really, thanks for engaging.
Yeah, just thanks a million, guys. It's been brilliant. Obviously, it's something that we haven't been doing a lot before. We're more used to being out and about. The last thing I'll finish up with saying before, if there's anyone has any questions, Conor Roach wants to know where we collect the balls. Go down to the office in Wexford Park, but might be closed. Yeah. I want to say, if you're an under-9 coach, this is something that I learned a few years ago, and I wrote it down. If you're an under-9 coach, I want you to imagine that you're driving the bus. Right, you're driving a bus and all your kids are on the bus. So let's say you've got 30 under-9s, if you're very lucky. You've got 30 under-9s and you're driving that bus and you have them for 2 years. Your job as the bus driver is to drop all those kids off at the under-11 station. So maybe you might go ahead with them again at under-11, but there could be a new coach or a new parent ready to take them on to the next level. Your job is to get them from under-9, all 30 kids, and drop them off at the under-11 and have the core values of the club instilled and have their talent level increase to where you want them to be and where you set out 2 years before that. So if you can get all those 30 kids loving you, all right, really, really loving your coach and love you as a person, right, and really want to play for you and enjoy going training, well, you've done a really, really good job as a coach.
Good stuff, Anthony, Willie. I just want to come in there for a quick second. So look, I just want to thank Willie and Anthony on behalf of the coaching staff in Wexford. I think that was a really, really good webinar. I think the information is key in it, and Dara behind the scenes, I think, you know, there's a lot of work goes on behind the scenes with this, and Dara's been excellent last week and this week in that. Well done to all of you for putting on this workshop tonight in the webinar. And also, I have to say to everyone who engaged tonight, the engagement was super. It really was. Like, you never know when these things start, when you ask a question, will people engage? But you know what? I kind of wish I was a kid again and I was playing games and learning the games again with a lot of the coaches that are in this group. Like, the knowledge here and there is fantastic. I think the future is bright for Gaelic games in our counties and in our country, when you can see people, they're really thinking about coaching now. They're thinking about games-based coaching. They're thinking about the child-centered approach. That's huge for our games, and the game is growing from strength to strength because of you people. So for me, I just think it's really given me a huge lift tonight seeing that. It's great, the interaction, and really thank you all for that. We are going to stay on the line for a few minutes. If people have to go, that's no problem. But if anyone has any questions, we have 4 or 5 minutes there, a little bit longer to ask a few questions. Type them into the chat box, or if you want to open up your mic, type in your name. And again, this was recorded, so we'll send it out to all the people. But if you have any questions after we finished, you can contact any member of our coaching office. Our emails are on the website, or send me an email. No problem at all, guys. So again, thanks, Willie, Dara, and Anthony. Excellent presentation, and we're wide open for any questions. All right.
We've one question in there, Ray. Just go back up. Thomas Cronin asked, what are the lads' opinion on the traffic light system of grouping kids by their ability? The one thing I would say, Thomas, is I come from a teaching background, and we do it in class. You know, if I'm teaching maths, I would split the class into 3 or 4 stations of their ability. Now, I suppose the biggest thing I would say to you is how you do it, okay? You cannot make any child feel, oh, I'm in the bottom group, or those lads are way better than me, or there's the really good lads over there, and I'm over here stuck with this, so I want to be in that group. So you got to stagger it. You got to do it differently every week. You can't have the same session coming twice in a row. But again, for every child to reach their potential, to me, you have to do it that way at certain times, especially in station. But you need to be very sensitive to all the kids' feelings. You might mix it up every week. You mightn't go back to it again for another 2 weeks of doing it that way. You might change it up each week. But again, to me, for each child, as Anthony touched on, if you're an under 11 and there's 5 or 6 of them outstanding and they're good enough for the under 13s, we have to make them reach their potential as well as a child. And I also touched on, the relative age theory. You have a boy who's 11 in January and another boy who's not 10 till December. There's 23 months in the difference. So, whether you group them under 10, under 11, I don't know, but I would be an advocate of it, but I would recommend you to be so sensitive and so well worded with the kids when they're doing it, and not to do it consistently week on week, the exact same stuff. Anthony?
I think it's something that I've used myself over the years, and traffic lights is a great analogy. I've done it with, you have to pre-plan, so and one thing that I've actually done as well is I've included a parent in the conversation, so it mightn't have been, and there has been 1 or 2 parents weren't overly happy, but I explained as a coach what I was trying to do, that I was trying to develop the players, and I felt that if they mixed with in the small sided games with all the really good players, then he or she didn't get any touches of the ball for the whole night. So I try to match them up with the level of players that they had, so then they came out of that session getting as maximum touches of the ball as possible. So just Willie, I leave you the question on the right hand dominant hurling. I'll just go to the one above it from Paulie. So Paulie says, any suggestions on how to get chaps to do a bit now at home during the current situation? Okay, so the cliche obviously is there's loads of challenges online, but one thing we're finding is you have to have a personal touch. So you have to have a personal, I don't know how you can open up a line of communication, whether you can do it on Microsoft Teams, or if your club has its own private Facebook Live group or something like that, get the kids online. Something that we demonstrated last week to the GPOs in Leinster was you can do live sessions online, but have a prize, give them something to aim for. Don't just put up a competition and say, right lads, who can strike the ball off the wall the most in 60 seconds? Get the parents to send in the video, and we'll make sure there's a winner at the end of it, because they'll want to know who won the prize or who didn't. So make sure that there's something there for them, and then move on to the next challenge. Don't dwell on it so much.
Yeah, that's perfect from Anthony. Just on the question there, I just saw there, Liam Griffin was in on the webinar tonight. Top class, some great interesting points. It just goes to show you a man who managed Wexford to an All-Ireland in his 70s still has a growth mindset. He's still looking at how we go about coaching kids in Wexford, just kind of a lesson for all of us. Stephen Turl, you asked, some kids are right hand dominant but hold her left hand. Should we try to change them? Yes, 100%. Okay, massive pet peeve of mine. I would have a system when you teach them at the very, very start where they put the hurl on the ground. I would say put up your 2 hands, okay? Which hand that you write, your pencil hand, write your name in the air. So I get them to write the name in the air, and I'd hide the other hand behind their back. And I would tell them pick up the hurl with that hand. And I'd have open the gate, close the gate, and then slide. And you keep teaching them how to do that. If they're still at it 3 or 4 years after you kind of repeatedly doing that, you still need to keep at them. But I would say if it gets to 13, 14, 15, and they're 9 years in the club and they're still doing it, I would just let them play it. At that stage, just look at Taggy Fogarty won an All-Ireland doing it, for Kilkenny. Wally Welsh does it at the minute. Look, it's not ideal, but I would really, your nursery, your under 7s and your under 9s. Again, we go back to our player pathway. If the correct coaching is taught at under 7, then this won't be a challenge for an under 9, under 11 or under 13 coach. However, if it's not done at under 7, then it becomes a challenge in later line. So Stephen, the short answer is yes, but that if the club player pathway is strong, that issue shouldn't exist in the club.
Podge then put in a question, should an under 7 or a great question, under 11 coach meet the parents of the kids at the start of the year and explain the player pathway to them? I would say 100% yes. I think that's a brilliant idea. One thing that I found with working with the development squads over the last few years is since we've started to meet the parents at the start of the year and explain what basically their son or daughter is going to go through for the year, you get the parents on board. You get the parents on board straight away. If you have a core value of a club, whether it's you're going to give everybody the same game time, or you're going to just go out to enjoy and make sure everyone gets a learning experience, and you're not going to concentrate on winning games. If you explain that to the parents, you should have 99% of them on board, okay? And maybe you might never ever get 100%. You might have someone that's set in their ways, but without a doubt, Podge, I would sit the parents down. If you're skilled enough to do a PowerPoint presentation, do a little presentation with them. If not, get them into a room, cup of tea, a few biscuits, a few sandwiches from the club, 30 parents in a room, 20 minutes before training. This is what we expect from your kid for the year, what we expect from you, and this is what we're going to give your son or daughter. And I think it's a great idea to get the parents on board and to start that culture and environment in the club that we're looking to create.
Yeah. Oh, class. Any more questions? Stephen, you asked again, you refused to do his right hand to my own son. Stephen, the only way I'd go about it then, if you keep at him, is show him videos of his heroes. Show him repeatedly clips. So if it's Lee Chin, that he's using his right hand. If it's, Seamus Callanan, he's using his right hand on top, and, coax him that way. After that, I don't really know, unless he might have a treat. So if he does it right, you give him a chocolate bar or something. But I don't think the health police will be too friendly about that with me. Any more questions, lads? You want to show them into the group or the mic?
I think really we might leave it there. Actually, I think I know Stephen's children as well. I might have coached them, well able to hit the ball. I'm not taking responsibility for holding the wrong hand. he's well able to strike the ball.
He's sitting beside me, Ray.
Oh yeah, he's the right one. Rocket fast.
Hi.
How are you? You hurling away?
He's doing a bit, Ray. Yeah.
Good man, Stephen.
We have the rebounder out, and he's hurling away.
Good man, that's what you want. You're well able to hurl. So look, guys. I think we might leave it there for tonight. If anyone has any further questions, you can contact myself. Actually, just one last one in, right? We'll deal with the last one. If anyone has any questions after this, we can just send me an email, or I need as an email. We'd be more than happy to help. So, Anthony, this one's you.
That's the teacher one. That's for the teacher.
No way. It's for the troublesome 9-year-old who was. That's you.
Oh, I was the troublesome 9-year-old, yeah.
How do you deal with troublesome, or I want to do my own thing, kid under 9?
It's a very good question. I think everyone's experienced it, and whether we've actually got the right answer or not is another thing. Off the top of my head, how do you deal with it? You have to involve the right people in the club. You have to, if he's really, really troublesome, you have to involve the coaching officer in your club. You have to involve the child liaison officer. You have to maybe talk to their parents first. I would obviously have a quiet word with the kid himself, as you would with anyone else. I wouldn't single him out or bring him into a room on his own, but I would have a couple of words with the kid without using bad language, and just explain to him that we're all in this together and you want him to carry on the same as everybody else. And then if that doesn't happen, you have to involve the parent and invite the parent to observe, is what I would say then, because invite the parent to observe and look for their feedback. And if he's really out there giving a lot of trouble, well, then the parent will get involved and have sympathy with you. Really?
Yeah, no, look, I agree with Andy. It's not easy if you have a troublesome kid. Maybe his parents aren't into it. Maybe he's coming up himself. You don't know the background. So first of all, I'd always say get to know the player. They're people first, and get to know where they're coming from home. You don't know what's going on there, and then ask for club support. So you bring in your coaching officer, bring in the county staff, ask can we help in some way, and go about it that way. But look, it's not an easy one, but there are methods around to getting around to it.
Yep. All right, guys, there's one more there from Michael Arthurs. It's about an observation. Does the GAA have any well-produced videos of top stars demonstrating skills of the game or clips from the games? I think anyone on Twitter will probably see Kieran Kilkenny at the moment and other players at the moment, and most coaching the games development staff, especially throughout Leinster, we will be putting up skills videos of staff doing the skills, of kids doing the skills, and yeah, so there is plenty of resources out there. I think in terms of any specific place you go find them, I'm not really sure. Do any of the lads, do you want to join in there? Or do you know any specific place apart from Twitter for me?
No, bar YouTube, there'll be an awful lot of clips done on YouTube and stuff, but it mightn't be specific. It might just be TJ Reid being brilliant for 4 minutes. It mightn't actually be kind of TJ Reid hook, and you won't find that. Suppose Mihal come in there with learning.ga.ie. That would be more so drills and games and videos. Yeah, there would be some of that, and there is some skills challenges and stuff in that, but it's actually something that we were even saying it when we were trying to get clips for this. It's something that we probably let ourselves down in the GAA. We don't have many videos of training sessions or matches broken down, and it's probably something that we could look at and build, that they would always be there as a resource going forward.
Yep, absolutely, guys. So look, thanks very much again for your interaction tonight. It was a really enjoyable webinar. I'm sure the two lads enjoyed it as well, and Dara on the mechanics of it all. So well done, lads. And this again was recorded. It'll be sent out to everybody. We'll probably wait until these 5 in the series are finished, and we'll send them all out then. If anyone wants it in the meantime, just send me a request and we'll go from there. So thanks again, guys, for all your work, to the two lads and to Dara, and to all you for interacting. See you soon.
Thank you.